My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks.
And I'm James Maynard, otherwise known as Sweet Baby James.
And tonight I'm going to talk about how competitiveness dehumanizes us, why and what to do about it. But before I do, let's have Sweet Baby James introduce our show.
Welcome to Inner Revolution, changing the world from the inside out, where we have the opportunity every Monday and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. to hear from Granny. Pacific time, thank you. To hear from Granny, to hear her wisdom and her uncommon sense. So without further ado, here's Granny.
In this electoral season, competition is really in front of our faces regularly, isn't it? So I want to start this show by talking about why I'm talking about competitiveness and how it dehumanizes us and what to do about it, because of something that happened today to me. I have very strong feelings about social, economic, and political issues, and there are certain candidates that I find more in resonance with my feelings than others. And so after a while, I find myself going down that squirrely road where I'm beginning to think of all the candidates as competing. Well, they are, aren't they? I'm not just making that up. They are competing for the prize, and it's not, the prize is not to all come together and kind of figure out something. It's to win the office and then take control. And they also have supporters. So I have found myself, when a certain candidate is losing ground, I'm thinking, yay. And when a certain candidate is gaining ground, I'm thinking, yeah. Well, today I happen to have read a small anecdote about a woman who is supporting one of the candidates that I really don't like their politics, and I don't want them to win. And this person lost big in one of the primaries. And the interview was talking about this woman, and she was in tears. And suddenly it occurred to me, this is not candidate X, who is a person to be beaten at the polls. This is candidate X and all their supporters who have given their hearts to putting them in office. Now, I'm not saying that the supporters are any better than I am, or they're probably competing too, right? But suddenly this person became real to me, and I felt, oh my God, her hopes, her aspirations, her fears. She's afraid the candidate I like is going to win. I'm afraid the candidate she likes is going to win. And we're not thinking about each other. And we have a couple comments right away. Amy says, hello, Beth and James. This is a great topic, as was the show on Monday. I'm so glad you watched it. If you didn't watch it, you should watch that program. It was about...
the power principle.
Yes, principles. Oh, yeah, we're going for power principles, or was that the show? Anyway, I don't think so. I can't remember. Anyway, Amy, if you can remind me. Tracy says hello and hello back.
Hello, Tracy.
So, yeah, are we looking for who's going to win or who? Oh, yes, if we believe that the economy and the society should be there to support people, to support us getting our needs met, to support people and the earth getting their needs met, then you should fight for that. And not fight for, oh, this one is electable, but you should fight for that, because we need to fight for what's really important to us. And if we all did, this would be a different place. But anyway, that was Monday's show. Okay, so now I want to talk about what happens when I don't see the opponent or the opponent's supporters as being human. They're cheerleaders, or they're like group out there, you know. What happens is I am no longer seeing them as human. And that means I am becoming less human myself, because compassion is human. As children, we have compassion, but we also have competitiveness or a desire for power. We can be directed to be more cooperative, or we can be directed to be more competitive. But that all depends on how we're being raised. Most of us are being raised to be extremely competitive. Amy said, I didn't leave any comments on Monday because your show was so engrossing. I'm so glad. Well, you go back and you watch that Monday night show. You people out there, if you're interested. So anyway, by making other people human, I became less human myself, because compassion is a human quality that I am robbing myself of. So as children, we are trained to be competing in sports, to be competing in academics. By the way, I didn't use the word competition, I used the word competitiveness. It is the energy itself of competitiveness. It is not the competition. It is the energy that we bring, that competitive energy that's being caused by things being so competitive. Okay, so we're taught as kids to compete in sports. Then in academics, we're competing and running for office, or that could even be an office in a classroom. Then we're competing for jobs. We're competing for popularity. We're competing for parental favors. We're competing for a mate. It goes on and on and on. How many of us, and I'd like you to be thinking about this, spend very much time thinking about the consequences to the other side of our winning? Very few. We keep telling ourselves why we should win, don't we?
Yes.
And then families often encourage their children to compete in terms of their social groups, and then social and business institutions. We're encouraged, like, my company versus your company. All of these institutions promote that ethic. And it can look like my religion is superior, but it actually means that we're comparing and competing. Like, everybody should join us, or let us be dominant or run the world. My race is superior. My social group is superior. My sorority is superior. My company is superior. My candidate is superior. My party is superior. Now, when we do that, and when we forget that these are also people who also have needs, we get into a killer mentality. Now, of course, we need discernment and judgment, and we need to sort out what we believe in. I was just saying that we need to fight for what we really believe in and what we think would work best. But our society sets this up to be a competition, not to be an inquiry, not to be a place where people can really talk about what we need. We have debates instead of serious discussions, don't we? I mean, it's absurd when you look at, I can't watch the debates because I keep waiting for them to get to something. We have one-liners instead of examination of situations and facts and so on. And all of this is for the purpose of winning. And that consciously or unconsciously leads us to this. Our opponents are not worthy of winning. We are. Therefore, they are not worthy, meaning they're not as good as we are, right? They are not even human. Now it's war. If Mexico and the U.S. were competing today over land, as we did years ago, we would be killing soldiers and civilians to win that piece of land. We're competing over land, but we're killing people in order to do that. Today, war is made into a game. We all know that. War games, right? They're on the computer and everything. But games are also war with the purpose of annihilation. You see you're blowing up the other, the opponent in the game. And I'd also like to say that not only is war made into a game in that respect, but war is made into a game when people are strategizing. Strategizing, this is the game, right? Or they're dropping bombs on people they'll never see, or sending out missiles, or doing whatever it is, that we have completely annihilated the reality of the people that we are killing, or whose land we're taking, or whose resources we are stealing. Because this is the mentality and the consciousness that we have inherited. Now I'm talking a little bit about why we do this. I really don't have enough time to talk on this topic, but we have inherited a mentality that says that it's okay to kill if you're competing and somebody tells you that it's okay.
Destroy the opponent.
Destroy the opponent. Isn't that something that you will hear at a game, a sports game? Kill, 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 right? You know, it's one thing to kill someone physically, but we're also killing people when we dehumanize them. When we are not, I was killing that supporter of that candidate. I was annihilating her as a human being because I wasn't even thinking about her. She didn't exist. The only thing that existed was her candidate that I didn't like. Another reason that we do this is because feeding that killer mentality is what sells. It sells newspapers, it sells candidates. You just get people revved up against somebody enough, and it sells.
There's a phrase in the media, if it bleeds, it leads.
Good point.
If there's violence, there's bloodshed, it leads.
Right, right. And we are made, press coverage has a lot of violence in it. We are annihilating people. It sells. And it also, and this is really important, feeding that annihilation of the opposition mentality helps us to manipulate others to support us. See, dehumanize the opposition and kill means that they're going to come over to our side. They're going to be protecting our perspective. They're going to be fighting for us because we've made them so afraid of the other people, because we have so dehumanized the opponent, made them look like they were some kind of monsters. And now we can manipulate those people and support them. And get them to support us. It's a form of manipulation. Now,
We've seen that in recent years, that the dehumanization of immigrants.
Oh, absolutely.
Labeling them as rapists and killers.
Absolutely. It's happening constantly. Or on the foot on everybody who supports the other side is a neo-Nazi. You know, it's all the same thing. Why don't we just dehumanize each other? Why do we do this? One thing I want to get to at the end, but before I get deeper into why we do it, I want to talk a little bit about how to change it. First thing we need to do is we need to stop. We need to get quiet and start thinking. Think for ourselves. Think. Think about the competitions in your life, personal, social, or political. Which ones are you engaged in? In your family? Are you competing for affection with anybody? Are you competing for some life partner? Are you competing in business? Are you competing at your job with someone else? Are you involved in the political debate? Think about the competitions. Then ask yourself to visualize your competitors, the people you're actually competing with. Give them a backstory, like they say in acting. It's like, what is the backstory here? What are they bringing into this moment, right? Who are they? What is their lives like? What are their feelings and their needs? And of course, very rarely are they going to be showing that to you, because very often we feel, I'm sure you feel this too, I feel this, is that when someone is telling me their story in some kind of a political situation, they're manipulating me. I don't even believe them. I don't even know if they're telling me the truth, right? But I'm doing the same thing. So let's try to give a backstory to people and then take a breath, right? And then do the same, with political opponents, with social opponents. What is driving them? What about their supporters? What is driving those supporters? Can you understand what might be driving those supporters? And it's not just campaigns and candidates. It can be positions. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-life. I'm this and that. What could be? How many of us are actually thinking about what could be motivating people who are arguing with our positions? And after you really think about what might be driving them, can you understand someone being that way? And if you do, what happens to the killer instinct? Do you still want to kill them? If so, keep working on it. Learn more about their history and their families. Really do some homework instead of spending time getting wrapped up in the competition and listening to your side. Find out more about the other guy and what might be driving him. If you can't find out more of the real story, just make something up. Try to imagine who might be feeling this way and why. Now I want to go back to the why again of this dehumanizing competitiveness. Competition starts with the assumption that there is only one prize and that we all have to go for that one prize.
Or just a few prizes, like there's not enough to go around.
Right, exactly. So it starts with that, and then we're unleashed, and the killer instinct comes out. I mean, we all come from, hunters and gatherers, okay, but what about the people who are hunters, right, who are out there killing prey or killing each other or whatever? We all know, we've all seen it. The big fish eats the little fish, or, we've seen somebody in our family dominating or hurting someone else in the family because they have more power. It's and it starts with something as simple as that. You're sitting at the dinner table. Who is going to decide who is going to get the bigger piece of meat? The person with the most power is going to make that decision. Whether they give that piece of meat to themselves or to their favorite, they are going to make that decision. I mean, it can come down to something as visceral as that. So we all feel the need for power in order to take care of ourselves, because if we don't have the power, somebody might overpower us. So in a competitive world, we have to compete for the power. I have to compete with you in order to have that power. We don't strengthen one another. We don't say, typically, why don't we all come together and go out and hunt up some cassavas or some mangoes or something, when we know that we can get to, when we're together, when we're united, when we're not fighting one another, we are more likely to think intelligently, to be able to get together. I mean, we see it in the animal world where certain groups of animals will hunt together. And they all know that if they do, then they're going to get the prey. Then whoever is in power gets the better part of that. I'm not saying animals are any better than these animals. But what I'm saying is, if we started thinking differently and we said, okay, what about if we start to try to, as we say, increase the pie, or stop the waste, or distribute it more equally? Does somebody need to be feeding themselves until they burst while someone else starves? Is that really a sensible way to run a society? Do you want the conductor on the train, especially the guy who's driving the train, if people drive trains anymore, I don't even know if they do.
The engineer, the train engineer.
Do you want him to be hungry, or do you want him to be full? Do you want him to be sleep deprived, or do you want him to be well rested? Right? If we start thinking differently, we start to co-create a world where we are all better off, and then the situation isn't there where we constantly have to compete with each other, because we begin to see that by us empowering one another, we are all more empowered. So don't give up fighting the good fight. Fight for that which will benefit everyone. Turn that competition into cooperation to co-create a world that really works for everyone. And don't let the desire to fight for something important turn you into a person who fights against people and wants them destroyed. So That's all I have to say on this tonight. Tomorrow night is Thursday, and we broadcast Dreams of Peace, where I play the piano in a very non-competitive way for my audience that all get to listen, and nobody has to compete unless you're all on one computer and someone else wants to watch something else. So, you can tune in 7 p.m. Pacific time live or anytime thereafter and watch me play the piano.
And listen as well.
And listen to Dreams of Peace, and you will definitely see Sweet Baby James there, who's a hugely important part of that.
Well, I love to share the comments that people make. So please come and comment and enjoy. I find that this music is healing, it's therapeutic. I always feel better after taking in the music.
And in the meantime, I'd like you to like this show if you did, and share the show if you agreed with it. Don't be afraid to share and comment, and I will answer your comment anytime that I see them. So, and come back next Monday for Inner Revolution.
Changing the world
from the inside out.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye for now.